Hello, 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 and welcome into Bear With Us on the Bear Claw Media podcast. I'm Chris Bolin, joined as always by Ben Schleiger, but also we're joined by our first ever repeat guest and now first ever three-time guest, assistant men's basketball coach Colin Gause. Colin, how you doing, my man?
I'm good. I'm good. Glad to be on. And I remember we talked about this last time. I was going to be the first repeater guest, so I'm excited for that for sure.
So, hell yeah. Yeah. So I said the second one automatically locks you in for a third. So the third automatically locks you in for 4 through 7. So just plan on that maybe postseason into next.
I love it. I love it.
But first things first, you know, I guess first ever Big Sky regular season title according to the record books. But if even without that, first in like 15 years, man, how does it feel?
Man, it feels good. Feels really good. Yeah, I think, just for, the city of Greeley, UNC, it was just great to kind of bring something back for them. Like you said, kind of like the, quotation marks first ever. Um, and so just able to kind of, put something up there and, fill a spot in the arena with the banner and just, get a championship, some type of championship trophy, just for UNC in men's basketball. It was amazing. It was an amazing feeling to kind of get it done when we did on Monday night. Um, and it was just cool to kind of see everyone's joy with winning that, and it was a close game and stuff like that. So it wasn't like it was a blowout, and we kind of knew what to expect. It was one of those grinders, and we were able to kind of pull it out at the end, and obviously celebrate and enjoy that. So it was great.
Yeah, I think kind of like lost in all of this. That was only UNC's third win in that building all time. Like I think he was
Yeah,
16-2 coming in.
yeah, man, it's crazy. I think Coach Smiley made a comment about just haven't been able to win at this place, too often. And fans who know a little bit about last year, we had a tough game. We had a tough game to play at their place last year, where we felt like we had that game kind of won, and some things kind of happened, and we just weren't able to get it done. And so, I think going into that game, like you said, knowing the history of us being able to play out there and not having a lot of success, it was something that we wanted to do and kind of get finished. And so we were glad that we were able to get it done, because it is a hard place to play at, and they've been good in years past, and so it's always tough playing up there.
Yeah, and Chris, you got a great video. Colin, you got the honor of sneaking in the trophy. A great video from Chris and Big Sky. What did it what was that honor like to go from like, being at UNC, being a student, seeing like the development of the program and whatnot, and then being able to be like the coach who brings in the trophy to the locker room and see the guys go nuts.
Yeah, man, honestly, it's it's kind of crazy, right? Just to even think about, where I am right now in my life and my coaching career, just to be at UNC and stuff like that, right? Obviously being a manager and a student there. Um, like you said, being able to kind of bring that regular season championship trophy into the locker room, the guys go crazy. It's funny, like we actually, Coach Smiley, was his idea. He kind of was like, "Hey, like let's go into the locker room real quick and kind of celebrate, and then we'll kind of play it safe, and we won't have the trophy with us right now. But we'll bring it in and we'll get excited and we'll top it up for a little bit, and then we'll call and we'll kind of have you go out there and grab it real quick and kind of surprise the guys all at once and kind of enjoy that moment." So hats off to Coach Smiley for kind of letting me do that. Like you said, me being an alum, and a student, just kind of, not really thinking that I'd probably be in a position like this, whatever, 4, 5, 6 years later. Now it was awesome just to kind of see all the guys and the excitement and just kind of get that whole thing, on camera as well, right? Just to be able to see that and stuff like that and look back on. So no, it was a great feeling for sure.
Right, from student to like your own like personal Gatorade moment per se.
Right.
I love that like shit-eating grin you had on your face as you're about to turn the corner. Like with you're like you knew you were about to do it to him. But
Yep.
the
I like kind of like you said, I had my little face and I was like turning the corner. I was like, all right, got him right now, ready to go. And so it just kind of, obviously kind of had that grin going on and then big smiles when we kind of went out there and all the water was flowing and all that kind of stuff. So pretty cool moment for sure.
so how did you guys got back to practice Wednesday, I assume, and practice yesterday and today then and flying out tomorrow? How is that, first off, is that right? And then like what's the approach? Like what are you focusing on, still not knowing that first round opponent? And then like any worry, like this team doesn't feel like it's a get out ahead of their skis type of team, but any like worries about that with the high coming off of that win on Monday?
Yeah, I think it was good, right? That game was on Monday, won that regular season championship on Monday night. We flew back Tuesday, kind of had an off day per se. And then yeah, like you said, practiced yesterday, Wednesday, and then today, and then we'll head out tomorrow. Um, but no, I think and Coach Smiley is really good about this. It's hard. It's hard to win, in college basketball, and so you definitely have to enjoy moments like that and stuff like that. And so I think our goal and our plan was just to, enjoy it, right? That Tuesday was our last off day, enjoy it and kind of get all that out of our system. And then by Wednesday, we're back to work. We know kind of, what our goal's been all year. And winning the regular season champion was just a part of that goal. Obviously our ultimate goal is to win the Big Sky tournament in Boise. And so I think it was great to celebrate that and kind of have that accomplishment. But I think as soon as Wednesday hit yesterday, we were all kind of focused on the next task at hand, which is having a really good Big Sky tournament and hopefully being able to host that trophy up on next Wednesday. And so yeah, the approach and stuff like that has kind of been pretty professional. We've had team meetings and other things like that, and kind of just discussed what's kind of next for us. Um, and then rolling into the tournament, um, it's one of those things where it's kind of tough because you don't know who you play, right? And so it's like, how much prep can you really do? And so we're just kind of trying to do our best to kind of, plan for whatever the situation is. The good and I guess bad thing you could say is that, we just played Weber, this past Monday, and there's a chance that we play them, this coming Sunday, for that for our first game of the tournament. So, there's good and bad things probably, about that of like, right, just a familiarity, right, last week. And then when it was a close game, right? And so the familiarity of that game and, maybe having to play them a week later as your last opponent. And then also there's just like it's hard to beat it. It's hard to play teams three times and win all three games realistically, and that's just what it is. And so, um, you know, there's two challenges ahead of us, right? It's either Weber State or Sac State, and we're kind of just preparing for both until we kind of know what it's going to look like, and we'll be ready to go when that time comes. So
You touched on the it's hard to beat teams three times. I was actually talking to Ben before you hopped on. Like all three of the teams you guys have lost to are in the opposite side of the bracket. Is there then it's like is there probably not much of a thought of that really from your end, but like is that nice that you don't have to worry about a Portland State and Montana, because the Idaho game was felt like more of kind of an aberration. But like is that a positive that you don't have to worry about one of those teams until like the final, or weigh that against like it is hard to beat teams three times and all of these teams played you guys close at least once
yeah,
realistically?
for sure. Yeah, I would say there's two ways to look at it, right? I think too when there's a team that's beating you, right? Sometimes there can be a different level of edge, you know. There's a natural I'm trying to think of the word, not comfortness, but just a naturalness of like, hey, like, oh, we already beat them twice, right? We can beat them again kind of deal. So there's some of that goes into play. Um, but then at the same time, it's like I said, it's hard to beat a team three times because, by this time we all know what we all do, right? And so then it's kind of, you're out there to kind of just make sure you're playing the best at the right time. That's obviously all what we strive for, to play the best in March, when it really counts. And so hopefully we're doing that, and that's obviously our goal. Um, but like you said, yeah, those three other teams that we lost to are on the other side. So I think there is a small, I wouldn't say confidence, but you feel like, okay, cool. Um, the teams that you did lose to, that you potentially could play in the championship if we can make the run that we hope we can. Um, you get another crack at them as well, right? And so there's obviously some motivation there of just wanting to beat those teams that did beat us in the regular season. Obviously we us having a good regular season, but there's obviously a chip there as well where we'd love to get back and play one of those teams, and whether it's in the championship or whatnot, and hopefully get that win. And so yeah, a lot of ways to look at it for sure. I think for us it's just having the Coach Smiley always says, just having the appropriate respect for the teams that you play, and the appropriate fear as well. Because that any night, if you're not at your best, you can get beat. But if you are, you have a really good chance to win. With the roster that we have and the team that we have this year. So
Yeah, looking ahead, you guys probably aren't necessarily scared of anybody since you're just focused on preparing, just like focus on the pros, focus on the cons. Looking ahead though, if you guys could choose, in your opinion, or at least who you think you match up better against, would you rather Weaver or would you rather Sack, stylistically and from what you've guys seen in two meetings from each?
yeah, that's a great question. It's a hard one to answer. I would say,
If this makes you
I
feel
would
any better, I doubt we have any Sac State or Weber State listenership.
people listening.
So,
We do have some Weaver, but that's
oh.
okay. They don't matter if they lose.
I would say there's there's a few ways to look at that as well. We just played Weber, so the prep is probably a little different, right? It's fresher in your mind, right? Just playing them as your last game. So not saying it's an easier prep, but it's a fresher prep because you just played. So, maybe you don't have to go back and watch as much film or whatever it may be, because you just played them, right? You can watch your last game. You can watch the couple games before that, which we already did, leading up to that. So I do think the prep could be a little easier on the staff per se. Um, but I still think, the challenge for both of those teams is going to be a big one. Um, just because, we played two teams on senior night for our last two games, right? And there's already a different level that goes into playing those games, right? Your family, people's families are there. It's the last time they play. Everything's a little bit heightened because, whether they want to have a really good game in front of their people or they want to play really hard in front of, things like that. And that's similar to March in the tournament, right? Everyone's trying to be at their best and the intensity is that much more. And so everyone's leaving on the line, right? Unless something's going on, you're going to get a team's best, right? Because there is nothing else after this, right? Um, and so, yeah, like I said, maybe the prep's a little different. And I guess you could say that would make it a little bit easier, or like, hey, maybe we'd want to play them. But at the same time, we know that it's both going to be a challenge, and it has different challenges, right? Sac State, they have probably the best big in the league, if I'm being honest. And then Weber, you could argue, he's second leading scorer in the league. You could argue he's one of the best guards in the league, if not, near the top. And so there's two different challenges that kind of come with that. And I couldn't really say what would we prefer right now. But just know that, I definitely think that it'll be it'll be good, challenging games, no matter who we play. Just because it's that time of the year for it. So.
Right. Following up with that, with the prep for Weber, if that's who you guys do get in front of you, do you kind of go with just like cleaning up from what you had in the last game, or or are you guys more worried about the totality or what kind of other tricks they might pull out? It's
Yeah.
it's kind of like pros and cons. Like you got to look at the biggest picture, but like, is it more focused on? Would you guys more focus on necessarily recency and just like, hey, let's do these things better and just outplay them? Or are you just kind of worried about everything they might bring?
Yeah, I think you first got to probably look at the most recent game, right? And thankfully that's who we played, and so you try to look at the things that we did good and didn't do well in those games. And then you also got to remember that, man, we played each other 3 times. This will be the third time now, right? And so you're also trying to see if there's an edge that you can get and bring something different out, right? Because they know all the stuff you've ran, and you've ran it all against them, and it's all on tape and all on film now, and so you're trying to see if is there some type of edge or something that maybe we didn't run this year, or that we have that we just want to kind of bring out for this time, because we know that all the things we've ran the last 2 games versus them, they probably know, right? And so there's that part of it. And then there's also the part of just like, Blaze had Blaze three, their best player. He had a really good game, statistically. And so just trying to figure out if there's any other ways to throw different things at him, right? If that's who we end up playing, right? Because, he's a good player, and he's probably seen a bunch of different things throughout the league this year already. And so just trying to figure if there's any small edge that we can get, as a team, even as a staff, that just gives up a little up, on them. Um, and that's kind of usually what you're going into, especially if you're playing another team that recent, because all that stuff's going to be fresh, right? Even just fresh of how you played versus versus the last time, and what the confidence is going into that. Like I said, knowing that was a close game, and so yeah, there's a handful of things kind of that go into it like that. But I'll probably say those are a couple of the main things. And just trying to familiarize yourself again with that stuff, and just try to be as sharp as possible. Because, like I said, I'm just playing a team 3 times, man. It's just you almost have to be that much sharper. And like I said, with how recent you did it, all that stuff is fresh. You played a team 2 months ago, right? Maybe you got to relearn all that stuff. They might not remember everything you ran, or you said, or you have to go back and look. But when it's that fresh, and thankfully, we got the win, right? There's a different level of edge that they'll probably have, and that we'll have, just kind of knowing how recent it was. So
So if you great answer, by the way. You're gonna make, whenever you move up the coaching ranks and you're doing these interviews more frequently, you're gonna kill it, my man. Great,
I
great work.
appreciate you.
Uh, but so removing, say the Big Sky tournament bracket was the A-Sun tournament. If that makes any sense, like you removing UNC from this bracket format. What are your thoughts on it? Because I think the 1 seed had it. In theory, it makes sense. The like lower seed has to play coming off a back to back. You get all this rest as the high seed. But in years past, like last year, you and Iwu, like the top 2 seeds, lost. I think last 3 years, I heard number 1 seed is lost in that first round. So it feels like a bracket that may benefit the top teams, but hasn't really played out like that. Do you have any thoughts, like removing yourselves from that equation on this kind of bracket format? Because this time of year, feels like a big talk of Twitter.
Yeah, I'm gonna remind myself. If I remember correctly, the ASUN, like the 1 and the 2 seed, they basically only have to win one game to get the championship, right?
Flip it. Say this tournament. Just what are your thoughts on the Big Sky tournament format if the
Gotcha.
ASUN teams were playing in it instead of Big Sky? So, like,
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
didn't have to deal with it personally.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough to say. It's like I get it from I'm trying to think of like as a fan, right? As a fan, you probably are like, yeah, like you want to see more games and stuff like that and see those teams play more. I do think, right, like, and in the Big Sky tournament, they reward you. Technically, you get a bye, right? Um, but I do think that it would be nice sometimes, right? You think about it, right? Like, hey, man, you did all that work in the regular season, right? And you feel like you get put in the absolute best position to make it to the championship because that's what you worked for all season, right? Not saying that that's not what we're in, with being the 1 seed and having the bye that we have. Um, but I do sometimes, I'm like, man, I wonder what it feels like to be able to only have to win one game, right, to make it to the championship. And like you said, you put in all that work in the regular season, and but that's, I guess, like the fun part about March, right? Like anyone can win it, just got to be good when it matters. And so I definitely see there's two sides to that for sure. I couldn't tell you which one's, the best format. Today, do I think, hey, would be nice? But like I said, like who knows, right? Like I'm thankful we got the one seed and we got the bye that we did. Um, and it would be interesting if if the Big Sky or if more leagues went to that. I don't know. It's kind of interesting because it's like a few leagues are like that, and a few, and then most of them aren't. And so I still I don't really know what the structure on like why leagues decide that, who decides that for the leagues. Um, but yeah, it'd be interesting to kind of see, behind the scenes on what that looks like, how they make those decisions, and if and they would ever do it, I guess, in the Big Sky or whatnot. So, but yes, it's hard, man. It's like you said, we lost early in that, first the one seed and two seed lost last year in it. And I want to say, like, I think you're right that the one seed lost in it the year before. And so it stings, right? If you're one of those top seeds because you feel like you put in all that work just to have one per se bad game, and you lose it all, off that. And so, like I said, I get both sides. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know what that looks like in the future if that'll ever get to it or what's technically the right thing to do or the best thing to do. I don't know. There needs to be a national poll, I guess, out to see what people think on tournaments and what's the best format. So
I think with
oh,
UNC being good recently, that's my most front runner opinion. Is that
for
love
sure.
I want like the West Coast Conference bracket where like UNC is the one seed and they don't play till like day 5 of the tournament.
Hmm.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
goodness we're not on the backside of that. 5 games to get
Oh
to it. Oof. That'd be a
man,
gauntlet. I mean, fun. Like we always want to see more games, but no thanks.
a lot of
But
games, a lot of games.
right. Nice fluffy question for you. Me and Chris were wondering, and was like, this definitely should have been a beginning of the season question, but we're curious. Who's got the best nickname on the team? And do you have a nickname with the team?
Oh, who's
At least
got the
the
best?
PG-13 ones that you can
Yeah,
share.
yeah, for sure.
This is a rated R podcast, Ben. What are you talking about?
Fair enough. Don't want to
Who
get
has
caught in
the
too much hot
best
water though.
nickname on the team? Um,
Or like any like weird ones we wouldn't guess.
yeah, let me think here. Let me think here. I'm probably just gonna start naming off nicknames for the guys, and I'll maybe let you guys kind of. I can't. So we call. I mean, now ZB Zach Block. We just call him ZB.
Classic
Um,
NBA nickname.
there's a couple other ones I'm gonna think on if I'm gonna say this one or not. I'm gonna wait for a second, but let me think. Brock. Nah, his nothing. Probably nah. He's nothing. Not Langston. Let me think if there's anything. Well, we just call him Lang. So nothing crazy there. I think Jaren. Jaren. It kind of just depends on who you talk to. I call him J Real. Sometimes. Let me think. Who else? Quinn. No, Quinn's just Q. Or the president. You never know with him. I would probably say the funniest one, and it's I don't know. We'll see, but Tayshaw Jackson. He we joke call him 50 Cent. Every now and then he's big, he's swole, he likes the wife beaters and stuff like that every now and then. So we kind of joke with him on that. Man, I'm trying to think if there's any good ones from amongst the guys that we really call that's out there too much. Let me think. Is there any
Any good
more?
ones for the coaches? Like anybody's got something funny to get Smiley's attention?
Nah, man, I'm not gonna
Ah,
lie, man. We nothing crazy. Mine, they just call me CG. It's just my initials. We're pretty big on the initials thing for some reason.
okay,
Like
fair enough.
DC, CG, DG for Coach Green. Coach Reed, Houston is just his name is what we all call him. Man, I'm trying to think. I feel like I'm missing something. Like I'm like, is there? There's got to be one right that we have out there that a guy has.
I like President and 50 Cent. Those ones are good.
Yeah, those
It's all
are
right.
those are probably some good ones. If I can think of something that by the before the end of this, I'll bring it up. I'll bring it up.
It's all good. Just means you guys are all about business and that you're
Yeah.
just going to keep on winning.
Yes, sir. That's the plan. That's the plan.
I don't know why the president, like, I can't quantify why that makes so much sense for Quinn, but it feels perfect for some reason.
Right, right. Yeah, yeah. Quinn's just man, he's a great player, great guy, and just he kind of has that commanding like feel to him. Um, and so he'd be like, if I were to be like, yeah, Quinn, you're the president, the mayor, or something like that. He's one of those guys.
Well, so with like the 3-game season, realistically, is kind of really a 1-game season until you win that first game. What do you think like the strengths of this team are that kind of benefit you guys in this like really stakes are high but condensed kind of sprint that you're in really Big Sky tournament, but you're at least guaranteed some postseason bid beyond that. So from here on out, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the thing that's made us really good all year is just the depth that we have. I think when we talked in the beginning of the year, I felt like I mentioned something about that as well. But you can really just see it, throughout the year, throughout our team. Um, and you can just tell like we have a deep connected team, but like I said, the depth, right? Like there's a handful of games this year that our leading scorers weren't our leading scorers, right? For example, Marcel's had a handful of really big games this year, right? Even though the Weber game, for us on
Monday,
Monday
yeah.
night had a huge game for us when some other guys were struggling. Quinn's been our leading scorer throughout the year. I mean, it'd be interesting to see like what the stat would look like if like how many different leading scorers we've had. Because in my head, it feels like 7 or 8 guys. Honestly,
Yeah.
like Brock's had been our leading scorer. Zay, of course, Langston, Zach, Quinn, Marcel, which I mentioned already. And so just feel like we have such a deep, talented team. And that's what makes it feel like we have a really good chance to win it all. Because when you're in high intensity games like this, right? Obviously, you expect and you hope that your best players, whatever that looks like, are at their best. But it does help to have other guys that are at their best as well. And that's where it's this. We feel like we've been fortunate all year to have guys who are in the moment and able to step up when it matters. And that could be, one to seven different guys. And that's what makes it so hard to play against as well, right? You can't really key in on one guy because we feel like we have enough guys um, on our roster that could have big nights at any time. Right. I think we've had 3 different player of the weeks this Big Sky player of the weeks. Jaren's gotten one, Lang's gotten a handful, and Isaiah's gotten some as well, right? And so like that's just kind of like a small snippet of we could have the best player be a different player, every game we play. And so that's what I feel like we're going to harp on. And like, if you look at some stats, we're one of the top assist teams in the nation and stuff like that. And so we feel like we share it and we feel like we allow everyone to kind of have their role and be heard within our offense and whatnot. And so um, I think that's what we're kind of relying on going into the tournament, just our depth and able to have a bunch of different guys step up in different ways when it matters most. So yeah, that's kind of our I feel like what we're leaning on and what we're excited most about heading into the tournament.
Yeah, having a lot of good guys and having you know, having to be picky and choosy who gets to, get time is a great problem to have. Thinking about the totality of the regular season, everybody's good or much, much higher above that, especially with all the player of the weeks. But who would you say has made the biggest strides this season? Who's the most improved from where they started in the off season?
Yeah, man, it's tough because I feel like a lot of guys have obviously improved within our roster. Like Jaren's, he's taken a leap, and had a better year for a really good year for us. Brock's taken a leap, maybe not statistically at times, but we kind of can see the growth that he's had as a player. Um, Marcel's had a really big, jump for us, right? If you could just kind of see what he was, his minutes and all that kind of stuff last year to having, like I said, a handful of really big games for us this year. Um, but I probably think, especially statistically wise, probably Langston. Um, he played a good amount of minutes for us, the previous year as well, and obviously he's been the program, one of the longest guys in the program so far on the teams that we have right now. Um, but statistically, for sure, I think he's made the biggest jump. And then obviously you guys can see, like you said, winning Big Sky Player of the Weeks and things like that, and potentially having a chance at being a Player of the Year and other things like that. He's just put himself in a really good position, right? With the work that he's done over the summer, the preseason, and then obviously being able to showcase that throughout the season in the games that we've had this year. So I think Langston, he's probably made the biggest jump. Um, and I think just more happy that he's been able to show it and showcase his talents out there for everyone, right? He's a Colorado kid, and so it's always nice to have homegrown talent here at Northern Colorado, and obviously him having success and stuff like that. And so, yeah, I definitely think a lot of guys have made some significant jumps um, for us, and there's probably a couple guys that I'm missing, but Langston's probably made the biggest, just in terms of obviously, like I said, winning those Big Sky Player of the Weeks and just making his name a little bit more known around the Big Sky and stuff like that. So,
Nice. I'm gonna flip it back on you just a little bit. I chatting with Langston last week, I was asking about how this coaching staff fits together. And
Mhm.
I kind of gave like a Smiley feels like the politician who's like kind of running everything. Houston Reed's this big joker. And then I kind of copped out when I got to you, and I was like, yeah, I've known Colin for years. Like we went to school together. And then when Langston kind of went back through, the thing he mentioned was like you were just the most positive person that he's ever met, like all the time. So like, is that like knowing you even back in school, you always were like you always seem to be having a good time. But is that something that you like focus on, like making sure you're bringing like a good energy every day, or is that just kind of the Colin Gause that was born 20 plus years ago?
Yeah, I would say it's probably a mixture of both, but I would definitely lean to more just who I am as a person. And I would credit my parents. Man, if you ever get a chance to meet my dad, you'll kind of see it right away. I'm a big smiler, and you'll see my dad's a big smiler, and so my parents have just always kind of I don't want to say taught me, but just I was just raised in that way. And it's funny, like I have a brother, right? And he would you wouldn't say he's the same, and per se, he's a little different than I am. We're both basketball people. He plays overseas, um, but different demeanors for sure in the way we kind of go about some things. But yeah, I've always been positive, and like I said, my dad's a big smiler. He's super positive, and he's always that's kind of something I took from him. Um, and then I start to think about just like life and what it is. And that's always been something where I've just like, I'm fortunate, I'm blessed to be alive, to be able to do the things that I love to do, to be able to stay around basketball and what better job, in the world do I have, right? If this is something, if this is my passion, right? Which it is. And so, um, and then also piggybacking that towards, our players, right? Um, it's a lot easier to be happy and positive than to be sad and frustrated, right? Um, and so I always just try to remind our guys that, man, like, we're all fortunate, we're all blessed to be in positions that, people might, would like to be in. Um, and so just to try to take advantage of those and be positive and thankful for all those things, because it just makes life that much better. And right, like like I said, I'm a very positive guy, and it's pretty rare that I'm not positive. And like if you catch me on a non-positive day, if I'm with the guys, it's something must have really went on. And even if it's like my day is not great or whatever it is, by the time I get to the guys, I feel like I got to be positive, right? And also just being around those guys is always fun, right? It's always fun to see those guys and just see how they've grown, and so that brings me a lot of joy as well. And allows me to kind of just stay positive, whether we're in a tough season or whether we're in a great season. Um, I feel like there's always, a positive, throughout the day, throughout the season, throughout, whatever you're kind of going through. And that's kind of what I try to try to harp on, right? There's really no point on harping on the negative. Try to get rid of that if you can. So
Yeah, lots of smiles this season. Hopefully, more to come. Outside of how great it was winning it, what's one of your favorite moments from the season, at least from the regular season? I mean, still work to do, but so far,
sure.
what's one of your favorite moments besides, the trophy and, securing the one seed?
Yeah, I mean, there's a. I'm gonna be respectful about it. There's a couple of ones I would say, right? The Montana sweep. That first time on the road, hard to do. Really hard to do, right? And if you guys were watching or if you guys know, right, we were down 20 in the second half versus Montana State. So that was just a crazy game to be a part of. Marcel, Marcel had one of those
Yeah.
big games, right, and willed us back into that one. And then, like I said, just that trip, right? We went into Montana and we had a pretty convincing win. And so those are two things, right? In all respect to Montana and Montana State, right? Those are great programs in the history of the Big Sky. Probably the premier ones, if you include Weber and stuff like that. And so just being able to go out there on the road and win those games, and then like you said, a crazy comeback in versus Montana State, and then a convincing um, dominating win at Montana. Those are probably two of the big ones I would say for me throughout the regular season so far.
I think honestly, just like the fact that that is the highlight is the most like respect you can show to Montana and Montana State, because yeah, that's not historically that's a very difficult trip to sweep. And
Yep.
so I guess kind of on that note, I think anybody who's not like plugged in day to day Big Sky basketball, they're probably going to wait until Wednesday night at about 9:30 Mountain Time. For the love of God, I don't know why it's starting then. And they're turning on the TV and they're going to expect to see UNC in Montana in that title game. Um, I know you can't look ahead, because especially with how this bracket's played out in years past. But I mean, getting a third crack at is that something you're like not looking forward to, but is that something that you guys are like licking your chops to kind of get your revenge on that from that second game? Or is it more if we don't have to see them at all this bracket, we'd be completely okay with that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wouldn't say licking her chops or anything like that. Honestly, I would say it's probably more for what the fans want, right? I think, like you said, right? I think the fans would love to see that, right? We had a convincing win in their place. For the most part, they had a convincing win in our place. We made it close late, but they dominated most of the game at our place, and so I think everyone would like to see that, right? Like, these are on paper, throughout the regular season, the two best teams. And so I think it would be a great showdown, right? Like you said, 9:30 p.m. on a Wednesday night on ESPN2 or ESPN. I think it'd be a great showdown, and I think it'd be great for the league as well, right? If that's just kind of how it played out. The two top teams going at it. We were co-regular season champs, right? Technically, and so kind of like, hey, like who's actually the champ, right? If that's kind of how it shakes out. Um, but no, I don't think there's any per se like, oh, we want to see them or we don't want to see them. Like you said, it's really hard for us to look ahead. You really just try to stay present and where your feet are. And so I think the goal is just to obviously take it one day at a time and one game at a time. And if that's who we end up playing, it'd be a great matchup to have. But ultimately, right, we just want to get there and have that opportunity to play whoever we can in that championship game, and then take care of business if that's what it is.
Yeah, Chris, last question for me. This is just kind of another one of those fluff questions, but just, mixing it up, lighten the mood. What's your favorite like guilty snack, or like your favorite like,
Ooh.
keep you going snack on the road? Some of those road games, especially, coordinating all the travel. Sometimes you got to keep yourself up quite a bit, getting to
For
the
sure.
stadium and whatnot.
Yeah, so I would say, man, I love ice cream, man. Love me some ice cream. I won't lie to you. Um, Ice cream is definitely like a guilty pleasure of mine. Try to stay away from it as much as I can, but sometimes I got to do it. I love me some ice cream, some cookies and cream. It'll be great. But then on the road, yeah, like there's these little like Reese's. They're like the Reese's or Reese's Puffs like cereal bars.
Ooh.
And they're actually really good. So recently I've been actually like I'm not a caffeine guy. I don't drink caffeine or any of that kind of stuff. Which is very surprising in this profession so
Yeah.
far. Everyone's like, "What?"
Where
And
does this
so
energy come from naturally?
right, I don't know. I don't know. I've been somehow. But what I'll do sometimes before a game is I'll eat one of those bars, right? And it's just like, it's sugary and all that kind of stuff, but it tastes good and it kind of gives me my little pump or whatever you want to call it, and I'm ready to go. So I would say, yeah, something like that, or maybe a Rice Krispie. Not the They have two different kinds now. They have like the ordinary kinds, and they have like the real ones, what they call them, where you can buy them in the store still, but they have like the actual marshmallows inside, and you can see them.
Ooh.
Yeah, definitely one of those that kind of keep me going for sure on the road. Definitely.
Okay, nice. Well, I imagine we could probably pepper you with stuff for another, what are we at, 41 minutes? So, but you have been more than gracious, not only tonight hopping on the pod earlier this year, last year, but also throughout the season when we've kind of traveled with you. Like, you guys have been nothing but awesome. And I appreciate you kind of letting us cosplay me and Jacob as part of the team from time to time. So just
For
just want to
sure.
want to thank you for kind of how great you've been to us, and love the staff, love the team, love the guys, love everybody.
Yeah.
Any anything you want to add before we get out of here? Any bold predictions about the Big Sky tournament coming up? Anything maybe we Oh, actually, I can't let you off this easy. Who's the Big Sky player of the year this year?
Yeah, that I mean,
That's the answer I expected.
yeah, that's a this is what I'll say. I'll say that you know, I feel like, we have someone on our team that would be deserving of it. Obviously the thing about that stuff is right, it's really also the votes, right? And so like it's not like we can vote for our own guys. So we can't vote for our own guys. So it's really up to the league and the coaches and kind of what they decide. Yeah, I do. I think that, we've had a really good year, and maybe we have someone on our team that could deserve that. But like obviously, if it was up to me, then maybe I could pick that. But it's not, and so we'll kind of see how all that stuff shakes out. I do think we're deserving of some things, but we're good with whatever kind of comes up of the awards and all that kind of stuff. Um, but I will say, there's a lot of good players in the league, and so, who knows who ends up coming out with it. Definitely a handful of guys that would add some pretty good seasons this year. But I will also say at the end, just yeah, I appreciate you guys as well, for having me on, multiple times. Obviously, I look forward to coming back again. And big shout out to Pirate Radio, Chris and Jacob, man. You guys are troopers all year, coming out and like you said, being a part of the team. We really appreciate your guys' support all year, and look forward to seeing you guys in Boise. And I wouldn't say bold predictions, but let's hope we're all there on Wednesday night. And we'll kind of see what happens from there. So
Maybe we'll take you up on that invite from Monday night that we couldn't join you guys on.
yeah, for sure, for sure. That's the plan for sure. That's definitely the goal.
I will close with, of the last 16, I believe. I just counted real quick, but I may be wrong. 16 Big Sky Player of the Years, and I chose that number because that's how far back the standings go on the Big Sky website. Dylan
Hmm.
Jones last year, first round draft pick, was the lowest on like basically the worst team to ever. Weber was 11-7 last year in conference. That's the
Mm,
worst conference record any player of the year has
here's one.
had as a team. So I think Langston said it best: when it's easy to score 30, when you don't have to worry about winning. So
Yeah. That's funny. I like that. So yeah, man. We'll see how it all shakes out. I think from what I understand, they come out on maybe Friday or something like that. So we'll probably be traveling, but we'll be excited. Either way. Just because it's tourney time and we're locked in and ready to go.
All right. Awesome. Again, thank you so much, Colin, for joining us. As always, everybody, if you like what we do, please, please, please like, subscribe, comment, tell your friends, tell them to tell their friends so they can like, subscribe, and comment. Yeah. And if you don't like what we're doing, Ben's Twitter DMs are always open. He's happy to listen to whatever you have to say. So
Yes, sir.
thanks.
Go Bears, and let's get all these fans out to Boise if we can, make a little noise out there. Appreciate you, Ben and Chris. Excuse me.
You're
And
Colin.
hopefully I'll be. I know, right? Hopefully I'll see you guys again
Gotta
soon.
have that self-love too, right?
Yes, sir.
Hell yeah. Colin Gause, UNC men's director of basketball operations, assistant coach. Thank you again, my man, and have a good one.